So I would be discussing as to how you can implement all the data validation steps in a point-wise manner subsequently on the video. Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. So on today's video, we will be discussing a very important feature in Excel, which is the data validation. So data validation allows the user to control the type of data that is being entered into a worksheet. So I would be discussing as to how you can implement all the data validation steps in a point-wise manner subsequently on the video. It takes a lot of effort from my side to bring you such videos. So if you are finding the content onto this channel useful, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. With that said, let's get to the video. So the first application of data validation is that we can restrict the user input to a particular text or numeric value. So for example, in this table, I want the city values to be a text value and no numeric value can enter this column C. So to do that, I can simply go to data and go to data validation and then select the custom option from this drop down. And under the formula section, I will be just using the formula is text and give the parameter as the address of the cell into which I want the data validation to be applied. So which is C3 in my scenario. So once I'm done with that, I'll click on OK. And now if I go on to enter any numeric value into this cell, it will give me an error. So I can just enter the text values into this cell. So in order to use this data validation for the entire column, I will simply press Ctrl C to copy the data validation, and then I will select the entire range of cells, and then I will go to Home, go to Paste, and under the Paste Special button, I will just simply click this Validation Radio button and press OK. So now the data validation is copied to the entire column. So now if I enter any numeric value into the city column, it will give me an error specifying this doesn't match the validation restrictions. So this will restrict the user to enter any value apart from text values into this column. Another feature of data validation is that we can restrict the column values to a pre-specified range. For example, in this scenario, I just want the employee ID to be a 4-digit number. So to do that, what I've done is I simply go to data validation and then I have selected whole number and then specified the range by selecting between in this drop down the range between 1000 and 999 so that it is a 4-digit number always. Once I press OK, so if I go on to enter a 3-digit number or a 5-digit number into this column, it will give me an error. The third application to data validation is simply an extension of the second example. So to restrict the 4-digit numbers in employee ID column, I can simply use the length function as well. So I will simply go to data validation and then instead of selecting the whole number option, I will select the custom option from this drop down and then we'll write a formula which is the length formula which calculates the length of A3 cell, which is this cell in our scenario, and equates that to 4. So it wants the length of cell A3 to be 4 only. So once I press OK and drag this data validation to the entire range of cells, go into home and then paste special and then the validation button. So once I'm done with that, if I go on to enter, for example, a 2-digit number into this column, it will give me an error. The fourth application to data validation is very similar to what we have seen in example 2, but this time this is around dates. So for example, you want to restrict the dates within a specified range in the particular column. So you can do that using the data validation. So to do that, just simply select the cell where you want the data validation to be. Go to data validation, select date into this drop down and between in this drop down and select the start date and end date, which I have specified in cell G2 and G3. So I've done that. Once you're done with that, press OK. So now it will not allow you to enter any date before 1st January 1986 and after 1st January 1996. So if I change this date to 1985, it will give me an error message. The fifth example to data validation is that we can restrict the user input to select from a drop down list. So to do that, just simply place the cursor where you want the data validation to be. Go to data and go to data validation and then select list and then provide the source to that list. So this is the list in my scenario. So I'm providing it with the list and then press OK. So now it will prompt you to enter only these 4 values. So to drag this down, I will just simply select the entire range of cells and press Alt ESN and press OK. So now it is dragged down to all the cells. Another very important feature of data validation is that it can restrict duplicate entries. So for example, I want every entry in the employee ID column to be unique. So to do that, I can simply apply data validation. So I will just place my cursor on cell A3, go to data validation and select the custom button and then apply the formula of COUNTIF. So every time it gets a duplicate value, it will give me an error. So I just press OK. So if I here type a duplicate value, which is 1234, so we already have 1234 on cell A3. If I type it again, it will then give me an error. Another very important feature of data validation is that it can restrict the values in a particular cell starting with a certain prefix. So if you want the employee ID to start always with ID and hyphen, so you can create that sanity check by just simply going to data validation, selecting custom, and then using this formula, which states that it will first extract the first three alphabets or characters of the A3 cell, which is this, which would be ID minus. And if they are ID minus, then only they will be allowed in this column. Otherwise, it will give me an error. So if I go on to type simply a numeric value, it now gives me an error. Another very important feature of data validation is that you can use an input message once the user select a particular cell, so that the user is also aware that the data validation is applied on this cell and we cannot enter any other values apart from the values that are specified in that input message. So to do that, you can simply go to data validation, and under the input message column you can type in the title of the box, and you can also type in the input message that you want to convey to the user, and just simply press OK. So now your message will be available to the user when the user hovers over that cell in Excel. Another very important feature of data validation is that you can create custom error message once an invalid data is being entered into the cell. So to do that, what you can do is simply click on the cell where you want that custom error message to be displayed, and go to data validation, go to error alert, and then you can simply use the style which you want to show in the error. So for example, you can use it to show the stop button. You can also use a warning button. You can also use an information button. So as of now, I'm using the stop button. And when I press OK, so now if I go on to enter any two-digit value into this column, it will give me an error which I have specified in a custom fashion. So it will say me unable to process data, and enter data is not a four-digit value, which I have already specified under the error alert radio button. And this brings us to the end of today's episode. So the Excel file that I have used in this video, I have placed the link to that Excel file in the description box, so you can check that out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon in the next video.